loves, happy Valentine's Day. If you are watching this on upload day, it is Thursday the 13th, so the day before Valentine's. I am shifting to a new upload schedule, so I think I'm going to try Mondays and Thursdays moving forward, but that does mean that tomorrow is Valentine's Day. So I've literally just woken up, so I apologize that I'm like in my pajamas and fresh faced. But I have been in the mood to pick up some romances because I really didn't get into that many in January, and I have lots of really, really highly anticipated romances on my TBR for February. So I figured, what better time to get into some romances and do a little romance reading vlog. So I did pick out 3 specific books for this vlog, and 2 of them are from my self-selected TBR, and then the TBR that was selected from my TBR jar, and the third one is a new release that I just happened to pick up. I hadn't pre-ordered it, but I went to Barnes & Noble and I saw it, and honestly I just couldn't help myself. I had to get it and read it, so it went straight to the top of my TBR. So here are my 3 books for this video, and maybe one of these is a highly anticipated release for you as well. So I've got Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young. If you watched my sapphic romance reading vlog, you know that I read one of her books in that video, and I also previously read Out on a Limb, and this is the kind of sequel. They're interconnected standalone, so you do see the characters from the first book in this one, but this is the sequel to that, and this just came out at the end of January, so I had to go and get this and read it. It's super short, so I do think this is the first one we're gonna get to in this video, and I probably won't give an update at the halfway mark just because it is short and I have a feeling I'm gonna read it pretty quickly. The next 2 books I've got, I have A Pirate's Life for Tea, which was on my self-selected TBR for the month, so I'm really excited to continue this series as well. The first book in this series was Can't Spell Treason Without Tea, and this is part of Tea and Tome, so I'm really excited to continue this. I think we do still get to see our first 2 characters throughout this book, and I just thought it would be fun to have very different genres in this. So I know I've got contemporary romance for my other 2 books, but I feel like Hannah Bonham Young and Emily Henry's writing are very different, and then I have got this little cozy fantasy romance, so very excited to read that. And then the last book on my TBR for this video is Funny Story by Emily Henry, which came out last year, and I have yet to get to it, and I've heard really good things about this, so I'm very, very excited to get to it in this vlog. With that being said, I think I am going to go get myself a cup of coffee, sit down on the couch, and jump right into Out of the Woods, and I will give you guys an update on how I felt about this once I finish.
Paint me a scene, city in color, the way that you see, the way you see it. Don't you wish that I could give you,
I have finished Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young as my first read for this romance reading vlog, and I have to say that I really, really enjoyed this. Honestly, I have just been eating up everything that Hannah Bonham Young has been writing, and this was really no exception. This was a super quick read for me, and I absolutely loved it. I do have a couple things that I want to talk about, and I will put a spoiler section just because I feel like in order for me to fully convey my feelings, I need to talk a little bit about the context from the book that gave me those feelings. But overall, I did want to tell you guys that I really enjoyed this book. Some of my favorite things about this book included the fact that we were focusing on a couple that had already been married for a while, and personally, just at my age and because I'm married, I relate to that a lot more than reading about people who are having a meet cute and then starting to date and developing a relationship. So I really appreciated that this felt a little bit more like literary fiction in the sense that we were seeing two people that were already together and they were working through some issues in their relationship. So it is a little bit of a second chance romance, but honestly, I just appreciate the focus on communication in this book, and I think that that's something that I personally really related to in terms of being in a long-term committed relationship, being married, and just settling into routines and forgetting that we all do change and grow and need different things over time. Even if we feel like we really know our partner and have been with them for a long time and might be comfortable in the scenario that we're already in. So I really appreciated all of that about the book. I am going to go ahead and start a little spoiler section so I can talk about a couple things that made the book feel a little bit more disjointed for me. And just before I start the spoilers, I just want to let you know I'm just going to reference a spice scene. So if you're not overly concerned about having content related to the spice scenes in a book that you probably knew was going to have spice scenes in it, then you're probably okay to watch the spoiler section. But if you don't want any info about anything in here, go ahead and click that tag to skip to the end of the spoiler section. I'll give you a couple seconds and then I'm gonna start spoiling. Okay, I hope you're gone if you don't want spoilers. So I did have a little issue with one part of this book in particular because I felt that this book was really beautifully written and the issues that our main characters, Sarah and Caleb, are working through are pretty deep and pretty intense. And I felt like I was absolutely loving the way that Hannah was approaching those topics and delving into them and really exploring the connection between our two characters. And I knew this was going to have spice in it, so I don't want you to interpret what I'm about to say as me saying I don't like books with any spice in them. That's not the case. But I felt like we had a perfect recipe here with two characters that were very connected with each other, redefining and reconfirming their commitment to each other, and then having some really beautiful, intimate connections in the book. However, there was one specific spice scene in the book that just really took me out of the narrative. So, to explain a little bit, while Sarah and Caleb are on this backpacking trip, they're going camping out in the woods, they are told by some of the other couples that there is a no intimacy rule, and they are trying to adhere to that. So a big part of the book is yearning and them wanting to be physically intimate with each other and trying to wait until the end of the trip. And so there is a plot line throughout of these two characters being comfortable or enjoying seeing the other person. I'm trying to find a better word to use than masturbate here, but I'm not sure there is one, so let's just assume we're all adults and we're just gonna say the word. So the two people in this couple are okay with seeing one another masturbate, and that's something that they've enjoyed in their relationship since earlier on. So there is one spice scene where that is the major component of the spice that is taking place. And I honestly just felt that it felt really, really out of place with the rest of the book. I felt like it kind of dove into being more kinky and putting in some actions that just didn't feel accurate to the two characters and the way that we knew them. And honestly, some of what was being described gave me the ick a little bit. And that's not something that I have experienced so far in reading Hannah's books, and specifically the spice scenes in Hannah's books. So for me, I just really didn't enjoy that particular spice scene. And I do think it lowered the rating for me because I was absolutely loving the book and the yearning and everything that was going on. And then they had this moment in the tent that just gave me the ick for this couple. And so it really pulled me out of the story and all the like serious, important things that were happening and how much I was enjoying watching them reconnect with each other before being physically intimate again. And they do have a later intimate scene that I had absolutely no problems with. I thought it made perfect sense. But I honestly just thought the book could have done without that scene where they were in the tent together, which both of those are towards the end of the book. And I wouldn't say that I felt like this was overly sexual. I felt like Hannah did a great job with these characters and did a great job with exploring both their relationship and their intimacy. But just that particular scene in the tent really, it didn't sit well with me, and I felt like it felt very disjointed from the rest of the book and where we were headed with the intimacy between these two characters. So I just wanted to share that I did lower my rating a little bit because of that. But overall, I thought everything else in this book was really, really well done. The things that Sarah struggles with in terms of having lost her mom when she was young, and then the things that they're struggling with in their relationship dynamic, as well as the events that take place at the end of the book. I thought that was all really, really beautifully handled. So, with that being said, I'm going to end our spoiler section and we can do a final wrap up for this book. So overall, I did rate this 4.25 out of 5 stars, which is honestly still a great rating. I would definitely pick this up again and revisit it. I think it was a really beautiful story, and I'm really excited to see what Hannah does in her next book, which I believe is coming out later this year. So this girl is just writing non-stop, and I am so glad because I am really, really enjoying her book. So overall, 4.25 stars for Out of the Woods, and my first new release of the year. So really excited to have picked that one up and gotten it checked off this month. So now that I am done with Out of the Woods, I can start either Funny Story or A Pirate's Life for Tea, and I am going to go with Funny Story. So I've already got the dust jacket off. She's all ready to go. I'm loving this beautiful blue with the white book cover. It feels very nostalgic to me. I don't know if that's silly, but it just feels very classic to me. So I'm really loving this. I think it's so, so pretty. So I am all ready to get started on Funny Story, and I feel like I'm even matching it a little bit today with my blue sweater. But I feel pretty confident that I will be giving you an update about this book very soon, because Emily puts some kind of magic in her books where the pacing is just perfect for me. I get hooked in and I just can't put them down, and I literally fly through her book. So I have a feeling you'll be hearing from me soon. Hopefully I can pry myself away from the book to give you a halfway update, but if not, I will catch you at the end with my rating. So I will see you soon for that update.
Paint me a scene, city in color, the way that you see, the way you see it. Don't you wish that I could give you, I could give you everything. If you wanna run ahead, I'll meet you.
Hey friends, just wanted to pop back in for an update. Sorry, I'm a little all over the place. I taught cycle today, so I feel like a little bit of a mess, and my layers like never stay in my braids, but whatever, no big deal, right? So I did finish Funny Story. I honestly think this might be one of my favorite Emily Henry reads so far. So just for context, I have read all of Emily Henry's books except for Book Lovers. So I had Book Lovers and Funny Story still on my physical TBR. And so far, I do think this one has been my favorite out of her books, although I will give the disclaimer that all of her books have gotten somewhere between 4 to 5 star ratings for me. So overall, I do just really like the way that she writes and tells stories, but I honestly think that this one so far is my favorite, which I wouldn't necessarily say that everyone that I've read has like topped the previous one. So I can confidently say that this one is my favorite, and it's not just recency bias. But the relationships that we see throughout the book, both like platonic and romantic, her relationships with her parents, with her friends, with her romantic interests throughout the book. I just really enjoyed, and I'm speaking about that with regard to the female main character, but the same is also true for our male main character in this book. So all of the dynamics that are explored in their relationships throughout this book were really amazing in my opinion. And I felt like this book had a little bit more of a mature feeling to it. Like, both of our characters are a little bit older. They're both coming out of relationships, and that's not a spoiler. That's something you learn immediately at the start of the book. And they both were in a place where they were mature and expecting to be with that person for the rest of their lives. So I definitely felt like these two characters just felt a little more mature to me. They were a little less juvenile in their feelings and the way that they handled situations, and I just really appreciated that. I also really appreciated the depiction of female friendship that we get in this book, especially adult female friendship. So when you're out of college and it's not as easy to make friends once you're working a full-time job and living on your own, that can be very difficult. So I really appreciated the way that Emily Henry depicted that in this book, and kind of the courage that it takes to try to start those types of friendships once you're in that place in your life, and how hard it can be to balance that with your other responsibilities, whether that's work, roommates, family, kids, etc. So I really liked Emily's approach to this story overall, and I found everything in this book to be really believable. There wasn't a moment where I felt pulled out of the story, and I often feel like in contemporary romance, the third act conflict can kind of take me out of the story or make me feel like we're just throwing some kind of nonsense into the book to cause an issue so that the characters can make up when it's not necessary. But I honestly thought that the third act conflict in this made a lot of sense, and I really didn't mind it much. I felt like it helped to handle things that needed to be resolved in order for our two characters to move to the next place in their relationship. So overall, this I think is my current favorite Emily Henry read. Of course, she does have a new release coming out in April, so maybe that one will top this for me, but this is my favorite thus far. And I think that's pretty interesting because I heard a lot of mixed reviews about this. A lot of people were saying they didn't like Funny Story as much as they've liked her previous works, but I also think I might be in a slightly older demographic than most of those people, so maybe that's why this one resonated with me a little bit more than it did with them. But overall, I really enjoyed this, and I did rate it 4.5 stars, so I think it's safe to say that it was definitely a good read for me, and I read it pretty quickly. So overall, I just really enjoyed this book, and I think if you haven't read it because you're worried about some of those negative or less than positive reviews that you've heard, still give it a shot because it's still going to be the Emily Henry writing that you're already familiar with and that you love from her other books, and you may like these two characters more than her other characters, or they might resonate with you more than her other characters. So definitely still give it a shot if you've been reluctant to do that. I know I personally was a little reluctant when I initially bought this just because of some of those less than positive reviews. I actually held off on buying this for a little bit after it came out just because I was concerned about those things and that maybe this one wasn't as good as her other books. So don't let the opinions of other people prevent you from reading this one. I definitely think it's a really good story, and I really enjoyed the romance between the two characters as well as all of the other things going on in the book. So easy 4.5 star book for me. So with that in mind, at the beginning of this video, I promised that I was going to pick up A Pirate's Life for Tea as my third book to read in this video, but unfortunately, I just think I was a little bit over ambitious going into this video with regard to how much time I had for reading and when I wanted to get this video uploaded. So I just don't think it's going to pan out to get this book into this vlog, but I will still be reading this really soon. I did want to share that I actually decided to pick up a different romance book, and I've been reading The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. And I just decided to pick this up because I wanted to possibly get a third book into this vlog, but I also was really interested in reading this because The 7-Year Slip was a 5-star read for me. It was the first Ashley Poston book that I read, and then A Novel Love Story fell pretty short for me in comparison to that one. So I've been a little nervous to pick up The Dead Romantics, but I knew how quickly I typically read when I'm reading Ashley Poston's books. I can really fly through her writing, and I really wanted to get into this and see if it would redeem her for me, or if it might be time to start thinking about whether I want to continue to buy and read her books. But I am about a third of the way into the book, and I can really safely say that I'm pretty sure I'm going to continue to like Ashley Poston's writing. I think that A Novel Love Story was kind of just a fluke and it didn't hit for me. I didn't think it was a bad book. I thought it had a really cute concept. I just didn't really buy into the romance. But so far, I'm really loving all of the elements in this book that actually aren't related to our main character exploring a romance, because we haven't really gotten into that yet. But I'm really enjoying everything else about the story so far. So I can't give you a rating or final thoughts on this book, but I just want to give it an honorable mention here at the end of the video, because I did pick up a third romance for this vlog. I'm just not going to get to finish it before it's time to get this edited and uploaded. But so far, so good. I'm really enjoying this, and you'll definitely have to come back for my February wrap-up at the end of the month to get my final thoughts on this book. But with that being said, I am really glad that I got to both Out on a Limb and Funny Story in this vlog. They were both really great reads for me, and they were a 4.25 and a 4.5. So Out of the Woods was 4.25, and I talked about the reasons for that, and Funny Story was a 4.5. So overall, I've really been enjoying this little break. I always feel like when I pick up contemporary romance books, I'm getting an opportunity to kind of not necessarily turn my mind off, but just to read something that's not going to be so high stakes that it's stressful to read, or it's not gonna like keep me up at night because it's a thriller or there's something really serious happening. It's really just an opportunity to explore a couple of characters and their relationship dynamics, and I always really like that chance that I get to do that when reading contemporary romance books that are really well written. And I can safely say that everything that I've picked up for this video definitely falls into that category. So for me, that's an absolute win, and I got to enjoy doing some fun Valentine's activities throughout this video. So I am really happy overall with my romance reads, and I'd love to know if you've picked up Out on a Limb since it is a new release, and if you've read it, please let me know what you think down in the comments. And then I would also love to hear if you enjoyed Funny Story, or if you agree with the folks who didn't enjoy it as much, and if so, what your favorite Emily Henry book is, because I would love to know that, and I know we all resonate with different ones. But thank you so much for watching this reading vlog. It has been a ton of fun, and I hope you have a great Valentine's Day, whether you're celebrating with a romantic partner, or you're celebrating with friends, or you're doing a little anti-Valentine's. Whatever you're doing, I hope you have a great time, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!